Let's bring in Larry Behrens. He is an energy expert, as well as Christine Balling, an advisor to U.S. Special Operations Command South. Great to have you both here. Christine, this conversation here, along with America's close allies to Israel, do you anticipate that this operation is going to work? I mean, you're going to try and cut off everything to Tehran, but do you think that some of these other countries that rely on Iran for some of their some of the oil and that sort of thing, are they going to be on board with this?
Well, obviously, time will tell. But in addition to oil, we're going after gold, crypto, the airline industry, tech. Yeah. I think really the key player, unfortunately, is China here. The question will be how far China will allow us or for the sanctions to affect them before they push back. It's definitely an opportunity for the Trump administration to prove that they are willing to be very tough on China, despite the fact that we have a summit coming up in a few weeks. So I think China is the key player here.
I know, isn't that interesting timing? We're going to see Xi Jinping in Washington, D.C. Larry, I wanted to ask you about Saudi Arabia and the country's creative move, finding a workaround, if you will, to avoid the Strait of Hormuz, now using the Suez Canal to move its oil exports. Is this something that other countries in the region could do? How much could this restore those energy prices?
Yeah, absolutely. It could help. I mean, more millions of barrels a day moving not through the Strait of Hormuz would certainly help. And these countries looking for other options is the right thing to do. I guess they don't have a Sierra Club in Saudi Arabia trying to fight their pipelines like we do here in the United States. But let's get to the basis of what makes this all possible, and that's American energy dominance. We're producing about 14 million barrels a day. That's American energy workers giving President Trump the flexibility to do this. And this is something that Joe Biden looked the other way on. It wasn't just a shadow fleet that Iran was selling its oil with. I mean, it was happening in the light of day. And all that money goes to Iran's war chest. It's a terror allowance that they were able to get by selling their oil. And so putting a stop to that is absolutely the right thing to do. And any number of ways that Iran is making money in any number of products, putting a stop to that is absolutely what we need to be doing.
Good point. And we also are trying to get this diplomacy happening here with Iran. Clearly, that's not going anywhere right now. But it's been months since we've even seen some of their leaders. Supreme Leader was hit with the potentially an airstrike during the beginning of the war, and he has not been made public. So are we even negotiating with them is the big question. There's speculation that he might even die in that strike. Here's President Trump. He's got his thoughts on it all. Watch.
I don't think he's dead. He was very seriously wounded. The left side of his body, the arm, the leg, the whole thing. He was very seriously wounded, but I don't think he's dead. And if he is, they're putting on a pretty good show because they talk about, going back to talk to him all the time, to get a final blessing on things.
Do you think the president actually has intel, Christine, on the Supreme Leader? Do we know if he's even alive?
Well, we the public do not know. And yes, I would very much hope that the president has some very good intelligence on that. But in a certain sense, what we've learned thus far is whether or not he, the individual, is alive is less relevant, because it seems like the IRGC side of the fence is the most influential and the most combative, pun intended, when it comes to potential negotiations with us. So he might be a figurehead, dead or alive, but I think it's the IRGC with whom we're really dealing.
Yeah, fair enough. There's still enough Iranian leadership members who hate America and don't want to come to a deal. I wanted to talk to you, Larry, about where this war is headed, because I'm sure many Americans have questions about it. Some now openly speculating that the conflict is nowhere near its conclusion, including the CEO of a major shipping company going on record comparing the war to what is happening in Ukraine, saying that neither U.S. or Iran have an obvious path to settlement. We know the war between Russia and Ukraine has stretched on for years. Can the American economy handle a years-long war with Iran?
Well, I'm not going to speculate on years-long war, but we can look at what has happened so far. There were some predictions when this first started that oil would go up to $200 a barrel. Clearly, that has not happened. But let's put it into perspective. I mean, the back and forth with Iran, which is deadly, has been happening for nearly my entire lifetime. And President Trump has said, no longer am I going to kick this can down the road. I'm not going to just keep the status quo, even though it feels a little bit safer. People were dying under that status quo, and President Trump has said no more. And so when you look at it in the context of Ukraine, we also need to look at it in the context of Iran, which this started in the late 70s. And so that is much longer for President Trump to move and pull these levers that can put pressure on Iran, bring them on the table. And you're absolutely right. We may not know who's in charge right now in Iran, but we know whoever's in charge, they need money. And cutting off that pipeline is what we need to be doing. It's what we are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Previous administrations have kicked this can down the road so many times. And also, you've got Secretary of War Pete Hegseth trying to make do and good on some of the things that previous administrations have done, including this, upgrading the Valor Awards for 3 Marines who risked their lives during that airport bombing in Kabul when the U.S. withdrew from Afghanistan. That was 5 years ago. Hegseth now saying that their original awards, they were downgraded. Christine, is this long overdue that the Secretary of War is now honoring them?
Long overdue is an understatement. It was outrageous that it was downgraded by the previous administration, and thank goodness that these brave Marines are now getting the recognition they deserve. This was incredible bravery on their part, and it's very important for Americans and the world to understand what our men and women in the armed forces are really made of. It's long overdue.
Yeah, I can't believe that was 5 years ago. You remember those 13 service members who were killed that day. Larry and Christine, thanks so much for joining us here on First Edition. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.